Till ADHD doesn't always mean short attention span. Hyperfocusing on a task for hours on end is also a known symptom of ADHD, where the inability to stop is considered to be the problem.
Yeah, I've blown a lot of days where I could have gotten laundry done, cleaned the house, or been otherwise more productive on real things because my pet project for the day wasn't perfect. Imagine discovering you suddenly have a new hobby for the day, and you can't let up on it until you feel like you've made some discernible progress. But tomorrow that new hobby you've gotten yourself into suddenly becomes an ongoing obligation and isn't nearly as interesting as the next thing you've moved on to.
I can't keep attention on you long enough to finish a sentence, but if I start working on my bike at 5 p.m. I'll stop at what I think is 9 p.m. and realize it's 2 a.m. and I forgot to eat lol. The biggest symptom I experience from ADHD is the absolute inability to keep a thought in the forefront of my head. Something like, gotta change remote batteries, gets forgotten as soon as I stand up at it.
I find it super interesting how many people are trying to tell me it's actually normal because they forget things something.
To clarify, often in high school I would hand in a test half finished, simply because I forgot to finish it. That's different than just being forgetful sometimes.
My child's therapist once said that people with ADHD spend their lives being punished for the scattered moments when they are able to focus. For someone who's neurotypical, it's easy to see an instance of hyperfocus and assume that the person can do that all the time if they want to, and then mislabel the person's inability to do so in other moments as laziness or lack of consideration. It's doubly beat the person with ADHD to have to shoulder not only the burden of compensating for their neurodivergence but also the judgment of those around them, not to mention their own self-judgment for having to work so hard to do things that seem natural to others. Edit. I just want to say how sorry I am that all of you have had to navigate this double bind, and I hope with all my heart that we can figure out how to remove the stigma and forge a different approach that accounts for many different ways of learning and working. My neurotypical older child was recently noting that his grade would likely go down now that he's working on a unit in math that was harder than the one he sailed through effortlessly in the first quarter, and it felt like he was being punished for actually learning. We both paused and agreed how insane it is that my younger child will likely never get particularly good grades, even though no one works harder than she does just to get through her day. Paying attention sometimes takes everything she's got. If I could offer a huge hug to all of you I would, and just know that your worth is independent of your ability to focus every beat moment.
This is actually part of the reason why there is a push to rename it from ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder, to EDD, Executive Dysfunction Disorder. As someone with ADHD, I feel like people really ignore the chronic exhaustion that comes with it. I am always way more exhausted than most of the people I know, and I think there's lots of people with ADHD that don't get diagnosed because that chronic fatigue that's visible to others can mask the internal restlessness, and could even lead somebody to think they have a different condition, and treat that instead.
Part of the problem is the inability to choose which tasks one can focus on. No? It's a problem when one can't find the willpower to do productive things they want to do, and can't stop whatever interests it is they are driven towards.
I have ADHD and I hyperfocus on certain tasks, especially at work. The problem is that I work in customer service, so while I'm trying to remain focused on 5 different tasks, I'll get randomly interrupted by customers and it irritates the beep out of me. I've been trying to work on my improving reaction to these interruptions, but it's so hard.
And this is exactly why I wasn't diagnosed until my 40s. Hyperfocus was a positive in my line of work at times, but that is of course offset by some of the other symptoms at times.
My brother has ADHD. The H part really showed because he would jump up for no reason and just run around screaming for hours. It was rare to have a quiet moment in our home when he was awake. Until we discovered Legos, my brother would focus on those when he got a new set and spend an entire day building them to look just like the picture on the box. He really didn't stop until he finished or fell asleep.
As someone with severe ADHD, I can tell you it's more of a dopamine deficit that I experience day to day. When I do find a subject or activity that perks my interest, it's like all-consuming, and it ends up being all I can think about until diminishing returns cause me to lose interest. This is why people with ADHD are at higher risk for beep addiction. Those drugs basically blow your dopamine receptors full open, making you feel like the heavens have opened up above you, laying down pure euphoria that burns with the intensity of 1,000 suns. If you have ADHD, normal pharmacy drugs like Ritalin are legit helpful. They boost your executive functioning, and you still feel like you. Just a less depressed and more capable version of yourself. Edit. Since this comment is getting some attention, here are some resources that are informative. Parenting Kids with ADHD, https://pca.street/podcast/1ft7b4 D0C5540130-33 acres 723 C91 E46. Beep Addictions Explained Season 1, https://pca.street/podcast/E576FF007BF40137F547-1CD0D495. ADHD in Adults, https://youtube.com/c/haltoadhd.
Thank you for posting this. I have ADHD, and hyperfocus isn't well known at all outside of ADHD circles. It isn't a can't focus disorder so much as a can't manually shift or control focus disorder. The best way I've been able to describe it to non-ADHD people is to compare focus to a quest list in a video game. For people without ADHD, you look through your list of quests, decide which is your priority to complete first, click on it, and that is now your active quest that you are working on. ADHD is not having any manual control over your quest log. I can have a main, timed quest that I know I have to complete, but my current active quest is finish getting all of the achievements in this random Steam game. I don't want to be doing this. This game isn't even fun. No matter what I try or what I click on, though, I can't change my active quest to what I actually want and need to be doing. I'll just be sitting there, internally screaming, hoping that the next quest after this one is done will be the one I actually need to do, but no way to ensure it. And if my current quest takes 8 hours to finish, well, buckle up, because that quest isn't changing anytime soon and I can't manually shift to something else. That is what ADHD feels like to me. Edit, breaking up text blocks. It's also possible to experience both. You can have trouble focusing on things, but randomly become intensely focused on something. And in my case, it usually tends to be something that's either unimportant, or is just the wrong thing. ADHD also tends to come with a sensory overload problem, which seems counterintuitive, since the condition hardwires you to either shift gears quickly and frequently, or multitask. But sometimes when there's a lot going on around us, we have trouble focusing on anything because we're trying to focus on everything all at once. This leads to us either shutting down, or lashing out, until things calm down. And by lashing out, I don't mean become destructive and violent. That's an anger issue, is unrelated, and you need to seek help. What I mean is that we tend to snap at people, yell, and possibly even say mean and hurtful things. We really can't help it. It's not personal, and we probably don't mean any of it. We're just trying to clear space so we can get back to feeling like we can function. We're overwhelmed and some of us don't have the ability to shut down, so we go the other way, and try to force things back to calm and quiet.
I can focus on a task for hours, and then suddenly stop caring. A lot of stuff gets half done, or I close doors on stuff because I know if I try again I will still eventually give up and waste the time. I have ADHD, can confirm. The quality of work I can do when hyper-focusing on something I'm often proud of, but I'll suddenly look to my side and the dinner my wife so wonderfully brought in 40 minutes ago is cold and I didn't even notice her enter or leave the room. Otherwise, my attention isn't limited, there's too much of it. There feels like a million things my mind wants to chase after and it gets overloaded sometimes. This is me. My mum has always called me the most forgetful, detail-oriented person on the planet. Always so focused on the details that I lose track of the big picture.
Oh beep, I have ADHD. Just kidding, I already knew that. Anyway, back to my 3-day rabbit hole on the French Revolution because of a comment on a different sub.
Real beep shame this wasn't explained to obsessive, bright, easily bored younger me.